Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we lost one of the biggest and most globally recognized icons in the world. A man I grew up watching, was fortunate enough to share the ring with, and like so many of us, were honored to call a friend. To Terry Bollea, the one and the only, the Immortal Hulk Hogan.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got my red and yellow gear on. Let's rewind the clock back to the golden age of professional wrestling, when the lights were bright, the crowds were loud, and one man stood in the middle of it all, tearing his shirt in half and pointing straight at you, brother. His name? Hulk Hogan. Before Hulkamania ran wild, wrestling was a regional attraction. Popular, yes, but not the global pop culture machine we know today. Hogan changed that. Born Terry Bollea in Augusta, Georgia, and raised in Tampa, Florida, he wasn't just a big guy with muscles. The guy had charisma, he had presence, and when he walked through that curtain, people believed every word he said. Hogan first stepped into the WWF, now WWE spotlight in the early 80s, managed by the legendary, classy Freddie Blassie. Remember him? But his first run didn't quite click until Vince McMahon saw the future. Vince had a vision: take wrestling national, make it mainstream, and turn it into sports entertainment. And to pull it all off, he needed a superhero that the kids could look up to, moms could trust, and dads could respect. And that man was Hulk Hogan. From there, Hogan became the face of not just the WWF or E, but professional wrestling itself. He was everywhere. TV, cartoon, action figures, and even movies. But if there's one moment that cemented his place in history, it was WrestleMania 3. In front of over 93,000 screaming fans in the Pontiac Silverdome, Hogan stood across from the unbeatable giant, Andre the Giant. The tension was electric. And then Hogan scooped him up, slammed him to the mat, and leg dropped his way onto immortality. The body slam didn't just win the match. It sent shockwaves across the globe. That night, wrestling went from a niche sport to a worldwide phenomenon. Without Hogan, WrestleMania might never have survived. Vince McMahon's dream needed a hero, and Hulk Hogan was the ultimate larger-than-life champion. After conquering Andre, Hogan's reign continued through some of wrestling's greatest storylines. One of the most memorable? Yeah, the Mega Powers, my favorite tag team of all time. Teaming with Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah! You know I gotta always do that. It was like combining dynamite with fireworks. Pure explosion. Together they took on the likes of the Mega Bucks, the Twin Towers, and much more. But as the saying goes, every great team eventually cracks. Jealousy over Miss Elizabeth tore the Mega Powers apart, leading to one of the most emotional feuds of the 80s. I remember that Saturday Night's Main Event. It happened to be on my birthday when they broke up. It was a sad night. In the early 80s and 90s, Hogan was one of the hero of heroes, defeating King Kong Bundy, Big Boss Man, Earthquake, Sergeant Slaughter, and countless villains who tried to end Hulkamania. His matches were more than fights, they were mortality plays, with Hogan teaching fans to say their prayers, take their vitamins, and believe in themselves. And I'm telling you, that shit worked. But by 1993, the winds of change were blowing, the wrestling audience was evolving, and Hogan's all-American hero image started to feel a little dated. And after a short run and a final WWE run, Hogan stepped away. But his story was far from over. In 1994, he shocked the wrestling world by signing with WCW. Suddenly, Hulkamania was running wild on a whole new company. At first, he was still the red and yellow hero battling Ric Flair, Vader, and the Dungeon of Doom. That was horrible. But by 1996, fans were turning on him. They'd see enough of the superhero act, and Hogan, ever the smart businessman, knew it was the right time to evolve. Bash at the Beach, 1996. One of the most shocking moments in wrestling history. Hogan walked to the ring, seemingly to save WCW from Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, but then the unthinkable happened. Hogan turned heel. The leg drop heard around the world, crushed Randy Savage, and the wrestling world stood in stunned silence. That night, the New World Order was born. Hollywood Hogan, dressed in the black and the white, sunglasses on, sneering at the fans, became the ultimate villain. The NWO wasn't just a storyline, it was a cultural shift. In wrestling became edgier, cooler, and more unpredictable. WCW exploded in popularity, dominating WWE ratings for 83 straight weeks. Hogan reigned as WCW champion multiple times, feuding with Sting, Lex Luger, and even Rowdy Roddy Piper. Rest in peace. Again, the NWO's dominance changed the business forever, and Hogan was at the center of it all. In the early 2000s, WWE bought WCW, and Hogan eventually came home. At WrestleMania 18 in 2002, he faced The Rock in what can only be described as a generational handshake. The Toronto crowd cheered like it was 1985 all over again, and that match proved that Hogan's legacy had transcended eras. From there, Hogan had memorable runs with Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and even returned for some nostalgia pops that drew huge reactions. And while time eventually caught up with him in the ring, his influence never faded. Hulk Hogan's career isn't just the story of one man's success. It's the story of how professional wrestling became mainstream. Without Hogan, there is no Rock, no John Cena, no Roman Reigns. He was the blueprint for the wrestling superstar, charisma, markability, and the ability to connect with fans on a deep emotional level. Sure, his life outside the ring had controversies, especially his last WWE appearance in LA. But listen, no legend's journey is without some shadows. But when it comes to the squared circle, Hogan's legacy is untouchable. From slamming Andre to uniting and then splitting the mega powers to shocking the world with the NWO, Hogan didn't just live through wrestling's biggest eras. He defined them. So whether you loved him in the red and the yellow or booed him in the black and white, one thing's for sure, Hulk Hogan revolutionized wrestling forever. And to that, I say, what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the Reel Deal run wild on you?